Thanks to my wonderful wife Joelle, I spend most of my life dressed as a woman, except when I'm at work and have to wear pants. Joelle is everything a crossdresser like me could ask for in a wife. Besides her other qualities that any man would desire, Joelle not only supports my crossdressing but encourages and even enthusiastically embraces it. Around Joelle, I'm not allowed to dress as a man, not that I would want to. Both our families and all our close friends have seen me dressed. Joelle and I met in England while we were graduate students. I'm from Manchester in northern England, while Joelle is French-Canadian with a touch of Canadian-Indian ancestry, and we now live in Quebec. I have no trouble going out dressed, even in daylight, and I often do the grocery shopping. I pass quite well, and I'm not overly concerned if anyone reads me. Only children tend to make remarks, though they can be bothersome. However, I still have two concerns, one minor and one major. When we shop for clothes, I still get nervous about trying on dresses in stores, even with Joelle there as protection. And I've always felt anxious about the possibility of being in a car accident while dressed and taken to the hospital. Joelle and I are both Pisces, perhaps a couple of wet fish, as they say, so when she had to attend a business conference in Manchester in early March, we decided to turn it into a joint birthday holiday and visit my brother in Chorley, near Manchester, at the same time. Because of the M on my passport, I had to wear pants for the flight and passing through customs and immigration, but that didn't mean I had to go without my lingerie. I prepared for the flight as I would for any outdoor trip by wearing my bra and panties, a pale beige set. The bra was slightly padded, as my chest was just 36A then, not the 36B they are now. I added a camisole and opaque black tights. I wore a white polo shirt that buttoned on the wrong side for a man, the right side for me, and charcoal gray stirrup pants. Even though I needed to wear a jacket and pants, they didn't have to be men's attire, and even my blazer buttoned on the feminine side. I felt incomplete without my makeup and wig. Joelle wore a smart wool tweed suit in ivory, teal, and old rose. I had a matching suit, but it was packed in my luggage. We took a limo to Montreal Airport because neither of us wanted to drive, especially with the possibility of a blizzard. Thanks to the limo, we didn't need our heavy winter coats and snow boots, so we both wore comfortable running shoes, Reeboks with pink trim, for the long flight. As usual, the overnight transatlantic flight felt endless, and we landed at Ringway Airport at 6 o'clock in the morning. Immigration went smoothly, and we chose the green lane for customs since we had nothing to declare. Despite the early hour, Jacob and Stephanie, my brother and sister-in-law, were waiting at Ringway to greet us. "Well, it's been a while since I've seen you in pants, brother." Jacob chuckled. Jacob captains one of Manchester Liner's container ships, which sails between Manchester and Montreal. About 6 times a year, Joelle and I drive to Montreal to spend evenings with Jacob aboard his ship, staying overnight before heading back home the next day. When Jacob has more than 36 hours in port, he stays with us. Jacob and Stephanie have also visited us at our home from time to time. After exchanging hugs, we loaded our luggage into Jacob's green BMW. Stephanie and Joelle sat in the back, while I sat beside my brother, elegantly swinging my legs into the car despite wearing pants. Jacob drove off, and at the traffic lights, Joelle pulled out her compact to apply a touch of lipstick. I considered doing the same but decided against it without my wig, lipstick and a receding hairline don't mix well. We chatted cheerfully, discussing plans for our visit. On that late February day, the roads were icy, triggering my old fears of a car accident, not so much the risk of injury but the thought of what would happen if I ended up in the hospital. And then it happened. We hit a patch of ice, and the car spun out of control, colliding with another vehicle before wrapping around a light pole. This was in the days before cars had seat belts. Jacob, behind the wheel, escaped serious injury, and the ladies in the back were shaken but unhurt. Unfortunately, I was in the front passenger seat, the suicide seat, with no seat belt. I was thrown headfirst through the windshield. The Manchester police arrived swiftly, aren't our police wonderful, followed shortly by ambulances. I regained consciousness in the ER of Prestwich Hospital. Dressed like this, what would the nurses think of me? Then I heard a gentle voice, "Can you manage to get your tights off by yourself, dear, or do you need my help?" Gentle hands assisted in removing them. "I'll dispose of these in the bin. You won't need them again." "What's your name, dear?" "Mine's Fiona. My wife calls me Delilah, but at work, I'm known as Derek." "Let me help you out of your panties, Delilah, and then we'll deal with your shirt." Another gentle touch followed. "Now, don't try to sit up, Delilah, you might have neck injuries." "I'll have to cut this shirt off. It won't go over your head." My shirt and camisole were cut up the sides and discarded. Then Fiona unhooked my bra. "I'll put this and your panties in a plastic bag so no one else will see them. You really do have a feminine chest, Delilah. I thought it was all padding. Do you take hormones?" "No, Fiona. I had a severe fever in Africa a few years ago, and this is one of the side effects." Fiona assisted me into a hospital gown, and after that, there was little conversation. I was wheeled off for x-rays, enduring what felt like an endless series of scans, including a brain scan, until we received the diagnosis. Fortunately, nothing was broken except for my face. My nose was smashed, both cheekbones were fractured, and my face was littered with bits of broken glass, some of which had embedded into the bones. The first task for the resident physician was to remove as many glass fragments as possible. Fiona held my hand throughout much of the procedure, comforting me and easing the pain when she wasn't assisting the resident. Afterward, I was admitted to the hospital and transferred to the surgical ward. The following day, plastic surgeon Mr. Nanjit Patel visited me to discuss the procedures. First, he addressed my nose. What shape did I prefer? Initially, I thought to restore its original bulbous shape, but Joelle suggested a more delicate, feminine nose. Next, repairs were needed under the right eye and on the left eyelid to ensure symmetry. The condition of my brow ridges was another concern. They were heavily pitted by the glass fragments. Should he attempt to reconstruct them with bone implants from my hip? "No need for that," Joelle interjected, and I concurred. Why undergo additional surgery elsewhere on my body? Besides, my brow ridges were somewhat awkward when I dressed as a woman. I asked Mr. Patel, British surgeons are addressed as Mr., not Doctor, to reduce my brow ridges to a more even surface, removing bone rather than adding more. The remaining issue was my cheekbones, which had been pushed back into my face. Again, the question arose of their reconstruction and the desired shape. Joelle chose a style with high, well-defined cheekbones. "Do you think you might end up looking rather feminine, Mr. Carruthers?" the surgeon teased. I struggled to hide my grin. The pain made smiling not only challenging but agonizing. Over the next week, while Joelle attended her conference, Mr. Patel performed his surgical magic on my face. Jacob and Stephanie visited regularly, and an unexpected visitor was Nurse Fiona, who came up from the emergency room to check on me. Glancing around to ensure privacy, she whispered, "I took your underwear home and washed it for you, Delilah." "You're too kind, Fiona. You shouldn't have gone to the trouble." "It was no trouble at all. Besides, they're so lovely and delicate. It was best to wash them right away. I'm sorry I had to discard the matching camisole." She leaned over and hugged me very gently. Thankfully, I was too sore for a tight embrace. Therefore, the insurance covered much of the feminization procedures on my face. I never intended to undergo such surgery voluntarily, even if I had been willing to pay for it. However, once it happened, I embraced the results. My fears of hospitalization after a car accident were alleviated, largely thanks to Fiona. I knew that if it were to happen again, another nurse might not be Fiona, but I trusted they would treat me kindly regardless of my attire. Finally, I was ready to leave the hospital. Joelle brought fresh underwear, an ivory silk blouse, and my suit to match the one she wore on the flight. After dressing, I settled into a wheelchair with a blanket over my lap to momentarily conceal my skirt. Stephanie and Joelle took turns pushing the wheelchair. I insisted on stopping by the ER. I wanted to bid farewell to Fiona and express my gratitude. Upon arrival, I discarded the blanket, stood up, and thanked Fiona with a hug. She had the last word. After a thoughtful look, she remarked, "This experience will make you a stronger woman, Delilah." I held Fiona's hand in one of mine and Joelle's in the other, squeezing both tightly. Now, all I needed was for my chest to grow to match my transformed face.